You've been in New York.
That's right.
But you haven't forgotten your hometown because you want to profile and tell the world about all the great stuff that comes out of one suburb in St. Louis.
Right, and it's actually a little bit more than forgetting about it. It made me remember more about where I'm from, St. Louis in general and U-City in particular.
Well, talk about some of the great talent that came out of University City.
Well, and I'm looking at the whole history of U-City. Go back to the start of the town from 1906 all the way up into about last year. And there are people, I knew about 20 people who went on to be paid professional musicians who spent at least a year living in U-City, then a year going to the public schools, and then a year being a paid professional musician. Started off 18 months ago knowing about 20. As of 2 days ago, I got an email from the 199th person in 13 different countries. It's out of control.
And these are musicians who work in the business, not just people who play piano for cocktail parties.
Right. It has to. It could be kind of a cocktail party, but they had to have been schooled in U-City. And I'm trying to figure out where the roots of all the musical cultural environment came from U-City, and I want to see if there are any connections to actually having it taught and how it got. How people from there became enculturated with it. And you could have done it for a year, as long as you got paid, not just for fun or for someone's wedding.
Right.
But for a year, this is how you made your living. And they're still pushing 200 people.
Nellie's the most famous.
Well, Nellie's the most famous in some circles, but you have a lot of people in classical circles like Sarah Sant'Ambroglio. She's one of the Eroica Trio, and she's very well known, multiple Grammys, all of that. There are people who've won Tonys. There's a young woman, Lisa Nicole Wilkerson. She's on Broadway right now with the revival of Porgy and Bess. She won, that whole cast won a Tony, and she won Best Female Dancer on Broadway as Fred Astaire Award. So
I had no idea.
That's the thing. I had no idea, and I've started to dive into this. I've done 54 full-blown interviews so far in 38 different cities and 17 different states. And it's incredible. And these are all people who have called St. Louis home, and it's just U-City in particular. And I'm trying to focus on the musicians because if I focused on all of the other visual and writing and other artists, it would take too long. And if I focused on all of St. Louis, I'd be doing this for my life, my grandkids' lives, and some other great grands too.
Now you're in Queens. Do your friends say, why are you obsessed with the musicians who come out of University City, Missouri, wherever that is?
It's actually the other way around because I know a lot of people who are in the music and in entertainment industry, and there are a lot of U-City people who live in – most of them live in Brooklyn, but there are a lot of people who live around. And I've met other professional musicians through the ones who are actually pros. And they see us talk, or I might meet someone new, and they're from U-City. We have this instantaneous bond, and they'll ask, oh, how long have you guys known each other? Oh, we met 5 minutes ago. They had no idea.
Really?
And then they hear about the way the schools were in many different eras, how tight the community was. You weren't the music dork or the band geek or the theater nerd. You could have just been anybody. You could have been the most popular kid in school. And they said they wish they had an environment like that where the arts and music and everything else was encouraged just as much as sports and a more academic oriented education. And they find out about that. And then the more they find out about all of these people, there are about 38 people in the New York City area right now who've been paid professional musicians. And
from U-City.
Who have U-City roots, meeting this 1 year paid professional, 1 year in town. And they do all sorts of I've found every genre of music imaginable in many different countries.
And so if I go to the U-City Library tonight, what will I see? What will I hear?
Well, first you're going to find out how I started off doing this project, and I'll talk about some of the roots of that and some of the education environment that was in U-City. Then I'll talk about some of the people that I've actually found. I'm going to roll a little bit of footage from some of the 54 different interviews that I've actually done. There are also a couple of musicians who are going to play. One is still here in U-City, or it's still in St. Louis, Linda Gurney. She's a musician. She's going to play, along with John Boldlin. He is from U-City. He went to the schools for a while. He lives in Bilbao in Spain, and I lived in Spain for a bit too. He graduated high school, I think, in 2002. He just happened to be here. He played at the Focal Point a couple of days ago. We had been in touch. I'm going to meet him for the first time in a couple of hours, and then he's going to come and play with Linda, and he'll play something by himself. I have a whole bunch of old teachers that have found out about this. My parents are going to come. I have about 12 years worth of teachers and principals, and this is the worst parent-teacher conference ever. It's a nightmare. No kid wants to have that many teachers. You have to give a presentation. So.
Hey, this is Rod Milam, and tonight it's the U-City Library, 7 o'clock. This guy's on fire when it comes to music in U-City at a time when across the nation a lot of music programs are being cut at public schools.
That's it, and I think this will... It's not necessarily an advocacy piece for it. It's more like a history, and we'll find out about the whole thing, and you'll say, well, we can't really do all the arts and music in schools. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. Across the 100 years, throughout the change in demographics, throughout all the changes in taste and time and culture, the music history throughout U City, and it was valued by not just the teachers but the parents and everyone else, and the changes in demographics and culture. It's there, and it could be anywhere else in the country.
You know, can't forget also, he's not a musician, but Tennessee Williams went to U City High, didn't he?
I tell people that all the time where I'm from. We have people that range from Tennessee Williams to Nelly and almost everything in between. We have reggae stars. We have hip-hop stars. Run DMC, the hip-hop group, they just reformed after Jam Master Jay, the DJ, was shot and killed maybe like 9 years ago. Who was the DJ? It's Charlie Chan. It's Charles Beeson. He sat next to me in English class. It's it's like replacing Ringo. If Ringo were gone from the Beatles, let's go back out on tour. Keith Moon. Oh, here, you're going to fill in. You're going to do the drums. Sat next to me and DJ'd our freshman high school party.
Really?
The stories are incredible, and they're all over the place.
Did you go to school with Jeremy Davenport?
Yes, Jeremy and I are in the same class along with Charlie Chan and Peter Martin and Chris Thomas.
Well, Peter Martin just played at the White House.
Yes, Peter plays the White House frequently. I've seen him at Jazz at Lincoln Center. I see him when he comes through New York every once in a while. Peter plays all over the world, and many of these musicians play absolutely everywhere around the world. It's amazing, and St. Louis should recognize not just the U City people. That's what I'm working on. I hope and I remember all of your drives to try to put signs around St. Louis. The one thing, and I'm a St. Louisan, I've lived in New York for 10 years, but we have to make sure we promote ourselves and let people know what's actually here. I think it's the biggest thing we can do for ourselves.
Rod Milam, part of the St. Louis diaspora. He's now living in Queens, part of New York City, but tonight he'll be back in his hometown of University City at the library to talk about the great music from there. Join him, 7 o'clock. Rod, thanks for joining us on KMOX.
Thank you very much for having me back.
Hey.